hashtag. I love that Black Girl Magic hashtag. And it's not just about women, it's about us as a culture. I love our diversity. I love our different shades and tones, and no two of us look alike, but we're all beautiful and glowing and magical, and I just love us. And I feel like we are the most resilient people on the planet. Like, no one rises like a Black person. Like, we take the least and make the most. No one, you can't outdo Black people, like, ever. Like, we show up and we show out at all times. You cannot outdo us. And like, just all the magic that we bring to every situation, every moment, every aspect of life is why, I don't know, I too love being Black. I am very Black. Like, I was like, I was like very Black. In case there was any questions, I am very Black. Like, I just love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. You guys ever seen that commercial? Okay.
I mean, I echo what these two said. I love to be Black. And I remember I grew up in Brooklyn, so people would always be like, what are you? What are you? What are you? And I'm like, I'm Black. Right. I'm just Black. And like, they're like, but where are you from? I'm like, I'm from here. I'm Black. But I think that Black people have a specific energy, and that's like where you get these phrases like Black Girl Magic, and it's just Black Boy Joy. It's just like this energy that we bring in the room. We don't even have to say anything, just us being there. People are just drawn to us. And I also feel like what I love about being Black is the versatility. Like, we could wear our hair straight, we could wear our hair curly, we can like cut it. We could look like a different person every day without even wearing a wig. Like, we just have so many choices and options, and you know, it's a burden and a blessing, because then you have to figure out how to manage your hair and do your hair. But like, I prefer to have that burden and versus like just being stuck with like one type of hair. And then going back to what you said about the resilience, like, I draw strength from our story, from our struggle. And like, I know that we didn't start out as slaves, we started as kings and queens, and I feel that energy. But also I feel the energy of the fact that my ancestors were slaves, and that if they could survive that, because obviously I am here, I exist, so I am a child of slaves who survived that horror. And if they had the strength to survive that, then I owe it to them to be my best self, to live up to the potential that they dreamed of, because I am, what is that quote? I'm the dream of my ancestors' dream. Yes, and I really feel that every day, and this is why I think that we clap louder when it's a Black woman that's winning. When one of us wins, we all win, because we know that universal struggle, we know where we came from, and that, you know, this wasn't handed to us. The system wasn't made for us to succeed. And so when we do, it's even greater.
I'm sorry. I just have to like say hello to the former mayor of New York, Mayor Dinkins in the back. Like, hello. Sitting underneath a very Black sign? Like, what is this about? Like, hello, thank you for being here and for listening, and for also randomly sitting underneath a very Black sign. Like, what? This is just like, wow, okay, so everyone, I'm sorry, now I feel like I've inundated him now, because everyone wants to get a picture of the former mayor, but like, it's amazing that he's here. So that's just, I'm sure he's just staying in a hotel. It's not like, you know, he came because, we're like, whatever, thank you.
Right. That's that energy.
Yes, all of that. Okay, so I'm gonna go right into the next panel. As we do that, I actually don't see well, let's go right into the next panel. All right, so can we have Trey and Teresa and Shan come to the stage? Thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for sharing your insights. We're gonna go into this next panel, and then everyone can, you know, drink and have a good time.
So, Baltimore's in the house. In Brooklyn, yes. Transplants. I want to first just start off by graciously and humbly thanking all of you for being in our presence and allowing us to be in yours, and for making space for us and creating space for yourselves on this beautiful, almost end of the summer day. So thank you, and just give yourself a little bit of love and clap for yourself or hug yourself or whatever you do to support yourself. Okay. I love myself with a lot more vigor than that, but it's no judgment. It's no judgment. We're all getting there. So yes, I want to take a moment and introduce these lovely, beautiful people that I have the pleasure to share space with as well, who are also from Baltimore and are transplanted in Brooklyn today. And instead of actually introducing them, I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Teresa Kamadi, originally from Baltimore, like Trey said. And I live in Brooklyn. I'm a mixed media artist, and that's about it. I mean, there's more to me, but that's my intro.
What's up, y'all? I'm Shan Wallace from Baltimore. I'm a photographer, I'm a writer. I do a lot of things. This introduction is very hard for me because I feel like that I can do anything I want to do, so I can't even list all the things that I can do. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm ready to talk to you all and talk to Trey and Teresa.
So we're going to talk about race and place. And as artists, something that I think is really important is how your work is influenced and informed. And I feel like coming from Baltimore, trying to understand for me how my place that I come from has informed and influenced my work has probably been something that's a little difficult, because that's been something that I've had to do by taking a mirror to my face and reflecting on who I am as a woman. And that's how I feel like I approach the way that I come from Baltimore and how that influences my work. But I'm curious how you guys feel about coming from Baltimore and how it influences the work that you create and produce.
Yeah, especially when I was younger, like when I was in undergrad, that was all the time I would say that, yeah, I'm from Baltimore, like, and it's so great and it inspires me and it makes me feel so like produce like such raw work or whatever. But I've kind of like backed away from that. What I've pulled from my experience of like where I'm from is that it's a sense of community, and I feel like I've lived in several different cities at this point. I've never felt that sense of community anywhere else besides my home city. And what I mean by community was just like walking down the street, like the joy that you get. Like there's a lot of depressing shit in that city, but it's something that's so like addicting, like the personalities and like the fun and like just the sayings. It just makes you feel like you're really a part of something. And in my work, my main thing is like showing women, black women, loving themselves, also talking about some things that happen like outside of our race, but mainly focusing on like the community between women, between the women that like live down the street from me or who braided my hair, or you know, just the conversations in their body language is mainly what inspired me from just growing up and seeing like my aunties get dressed and like all of that.
So since I'm a photographer, so one of the things that I do, I use photography as a form of activism. I believe in art, I believe in literature. I believe that's a way to help critical consciousness, but also educate. My photography is done in Baltimore on the streets, particularly in the hood, in the ghetto, in these places where I grew up, these places where I know there's not much privilege, especially on a critical conscious thinking level and education. So I use photography as a way to do community work. I do a lot of things with photography. I put out a book, I did some weed pasting. I try to get my photography to people so we can see how we look and we can reflect on each other. And I usually shoot everyday lives of black people. I think that that's important. A lot of times we see ourselves when we are popping off on somebody or when we have accomplishments. And I think that America's perception of us is full of derogatory images and these stereotypes, and we take that on. And so for me, it's like, okay, we take that on, I take that on, let's see each other every day. Audre Lorde and James Baldwin had this conversation, and she said, I think in order for us to make progress as a race, we have to understand our samenesses and our differences. And I believe in that. And so I use that in my photography to show us how we look. And it works. I can do activism because Baltimore is just simple. The systemic issues that happen in Baltimore is a mirror of the shit that happens everywhere. And Baltimore's so small, so the shit is so impactful. When something happens in West Baltimore, it happens in East Baltimore. And so for me, I just use it as a form of activism in Baltimore, a form of community work, a way to bring us together, a way to educate students, a way to educate my peers, a way to provide platforms for people, because we all know that Black people, we like to talk. And we like to feel represented, and we like to feel included. And these are people who haven't went to college, people who have third grade reading levels, people who are so underrepresented or just forgotten about. And I come from that. And so me coming from that and me growing up around these people and around this all this oppression, all this brutality, it's like, yo, I got privilege, and it's my decision to make a positive impact on society. So why not do this with my art? Why not do this with my intelligence? Why not do this because we all look alike? We all go through the same things. And so Baltimore definitely influences me. It's who I am, but it also is a true reflection and the root of the work that I do.
Word. So something that I've always struggled with is depictions. How where you're from is represented in the media. So we all come from different cities and different towns, and depending on if it's urban or rural or whatever, the media is used in a very particular way, right? Coming from Baltimore, the only major lens you really get to see about what happens in Baltimore is HBO's The Wire. I was on that show when I was 15 years old. I'm not saying that I have anything against that show. That show, for me, was a very, very valid, in a lot of ways, depiction of a perspective. And I think that perspective is the really operative word in that sentence, because how we perceive ourselves is greatly impacted by how others are perceiving us. And I've always struggled with how I perceive my city. And how I perceive my city has been greatly impacted not only by my experiences, but how it's been shown to me, how it's been showcased for me, and how it's been repackaged and sold to me through media representations. So I'm curious for you guys how you feel about the way Baltimore has been depicted, how you feel like it connects to your experience, and how you are depicting it through your work.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't even think about that until I even went to college. Like I grew, like my mom, like we always lived on like the border of like, that shit's crazy over there, and those people are like hella bougie over here. Like in Baltimore, it's very like you're layered on top of each other. So like if you go to this corner and make a right, you can just see a completely different thing. And even though you may be a child and you've grown up in the hood, you're seeing that. And sometimes you even have those interactions. I went to a charter school growing up. Sorry, my voice. I went to a charter school growing up, and I was around like so many different kids. Like it was so many Black kids, white kids, Asian kids. It was just extremely diverse. And like I never thought about race when I was little. Like I knew I was a Black girl. I would go home and she would tell me about like, this is the deal, this is what you should be proud of. But like I didn't have those like racial conversations like in school. I get to high school, I went to arts high school, didn't feel it either. I go to college and I went to Pratt, completely different experience. I was just like, whoa. Like my mom would tell me about this, but like I never like experienced it until I went to the school. And that was just like crazy. Like I was secure in myself, but I was just like, wow, people really do like separate. And it's just like, just interesting seeing that in that atmosphere. But I felt like, you know, growing up in that city really did ground me. And I feel like it was grounding, and it really prepared me for a lot of things. But I feel like when it kind of like guards you. in a way. So it's just like you only know like what's going on like right here, you know. And then like my mom like packed me up and like I went to like Australia like 16. So it's just like random things. It's like you dealing with shit at home and then you being like dropped in this other environment and you're like, oh wow, this is extremely different. But yeah, I feel like it's just prepared me for a lot, and like it's just like this raw essence of the city. And I feel like no matter like where someone from Baltimore goes and you're around like other people from Baltimore, it's always like, oh, like you're so honest, or like you're so raw. And I never understood that. I was just like, I'm just saying like what's on my mind. But people are ashamed a lot of times when if they're from like a smaller city or like a smaller town. But Baltimore is this underdog, but for some reason we have a lot of pride within our city. And it's just like how Shauna was saying, like just being a black woman, like you're really prideful of being this black woman, but like you have so many things that's coming at you, but like you wouldn't trade it for the world. And that's how I feel about Baltimore. It's just like so much negativity, but so much like cool shit on there, like the underground scene. It just feels so rich. It's just that like a lot of it wasn't like good representation. Like you can go to DC and see so many black people with like this kind of business or whatever, and they can see that growing up like, oh, okay, like if I want to do this, I can just, you know, do X, Y, Z. But in Baltimore, it's like, you know, people kind of do something and never get it really off the ground. So growing up there, you're like, you know, I feel like I have these great ideas. I have to leave and go somewhere else if I really want to be around other people that's going to push me. Honestly, it's kind of true. But but at the same time, I feel like it is good to invest in the city. And I feel like I always want to be a person that can still invest in Baltimore City, just so that the next group of black kids don't have to feel the way that I felt. And like, it needs to start in like middle school, not like just high school, you know? So yeah.
Baltimore is about 63% black. That's a lot of black people. But it's so segregated. And so like you were saying, it's so many things that you can live here and then live by the bougie people and only see one side because it's so black, but it's so segregated. And Baltimore don't get a lot of love. You know, I think that we're a little misrepresented because people don't really know much about us. It's a very, very small city, but we're so prideful because since it's such a small city, it's very organic. So you actually see the change, the effectiveness that's happening in the city. You actually are a part of these rich cultures, and you see the result of these rich cultures throughout the city. The artists are actually doing real work. The writers are actually doing real work that we're seeing change communities and inspire kids. And so I'm very proudful to be from Baltimore. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people started paying attention to Baltimore once the Freddie Gray thing popped off. But like, yo, we know about 100 Freddie Grays. You know? It's been a thing. But the thing about Baltimore that's really special is that shit is so normalized. You know, like, since we knew 100 Freddie Grays, nobody expected this whole Freddie Gray thing to blow up the way that it did, because it was something that happens like clockwork. Brutality by police happens by clockwork. And so this is something that we're used to. This is something that is a part of our daily lives. Friends getting robbed by police. I mean, all types of shit that happens that people don't know about, you know? And so one thing about the Freddie Gray situation, it brought more attention to Baltimore, but that attention wasn't always good, because you had CNN coming, you had all these different people who just coming for stories, who trying to pop shit off so they can get their next YouTube, you know, stardom and shit. And so that's one thing that I really had a problem with and made me step up, because it's like I see these people coming in where I live, coming and snapping pictures of the people that I love and taking advantage of them and not telling them anything, not exchanging anything. This isn't beneficial for anyone but you. And so it's like, that's offensive. I feel some type of way. We're very territorial people too. We love our city and we don't play that shit. And so that made me step my game up a little, like, yo, I'm a photographer. We have all the tools that we need to be the best that we can be. Why not take advantage of these tools? But why not reflect the city and do good for the city? But when we do good for the city, we doing good for all black people, because we all just a reflection of each other and we go through the same things. And just Baltimore is just such a small city, and it's just so organic that, like, everyone's loving, everyone's trying to help. It's so many people that's doing grassroots work. And then we have these imposters come in who want to say that they're doing grassroots work, but not, that's sitting next to the oppressor, having dinner with them. That shit doesn't work. And so there's so much resilience in Baltimore because we have no choice. We have no choice. When I tell y'all that it's a small city, you can literally walk from east to west on North Avenue in like 30 minutes and see like half of the city. And so it's a very beautiful city. It's a very black and organic city. And it makes me feel good to sit up here with you two, knowing that the things that you do is a reflection of Baltimore. And that reflection is needed in these schools, because these schools, we have one of the worst education systems in Baltimore. And it doesn't nurture your mind at all. And so these kids, they need us, They need to see people like us. And they do see people like us. And that's a good thing.
When last year, because I moved back to Baltimore almost 2 years ago, and I stayed there for about a year, I guess. I was teaching in schools, and it just felt so important to me while I was there, okay, you see that this is not working. Like, my grandfather and my grandmother, they started natural food stores growing up, and they were really a part of this whole grassroots thing. So I grew up in that